This morning on the Elected Podcast, there's T-minus 60 days until you go to the polls for the 2018 elections. This morning, we move away from the national politics and we focus on what's going on right here in New York State. All that and much more coming up for Episode 5, 60 Days for September 7th, 2018 on the Elected Podcast. I'm now joined on the podcast by the libertarian candidate for governor, Larry Sharpe. Mr. Sharpe, thanks for coming on.
I am happy to be here, my friend.
So why did you decide to run for governor?
Boring question. Give me something else.
Okay, a major issue for voters in this election is corruption.
Yes.
Governor Andrew Cuomo is the face of corruption, and he's ahead in the polls. Why?
Because this is a heavily Democrat state, and we have a rift in our country, but also in New York State, which is if you are a Democrat, you can't vote Republican because you're afraid. If you're a Republican, you can't vote Democrat because you're afraid. So what that means is they would rather have the devil they know than the evil person that they have been told is so evil. The worst part about that is 70% of New Yorkers don't even vote. They've just given up. Why bother? The Democrats are always going to win, or the Republicans are always going to win. And what I mean by that is statewide, Democrats always win. But locally, there are actually more Republican districts than there are Democrat districts. So locally, most of the Republicans win. How do I know this? I go to tons of fairs. If I go to a red area and I look at the Republican state fair booth, empty. Why bother showing up? We win anyway. That happens all the time. Democrats, same thing, opposite way. So we've been taught that I can't vote Democrat because I'm a Republican, or I can't vote Republican because I'm Democrat. That's why people will vote for Cuomo, even though they know he's corrupt, because they fear the Republican even more.
Right. Why do you believe a third-party candidate will win in this race?
Easy is what I just said.
Yeah.
70% of New Yorkers don't vote, so what will get them out? Here's what I know. Voters who usually vote, the most common reason they vote, it's not a 100% rule, but the most common reason is fear, right? If you usually vote and you identify as a Democrat, you're going to vote because you're afraid of Republican. If you usually vote and you identify as Republican, you're going to vote because you're afraid of Democrat. Usually. If you don't vote, you only vote because you have hope. Bernie and Trump both taught us this in 2016, and it's still true. Obama taught us in 2008, he taught us this also, right? You have hope, people rush out to vote because they have hope. That's what we can do. We can make that happen in this state. I give people hope so I can get that 70%. I can get those people to vote. More than that, if you're a Democrat, you won't vote for a Republican, but you'll vote for a third party. If you're a Republican, you won't vote Democrat, but you will vote Libertarian Party. So I get unhappy Democrats, unhappy Republicans, and those who won't vote. That's why.
You've expressed many concerns about the new downtown hospital project proposed for Utica. Talk about why you don't support the project.
Very simple. It is eminent domain. That's the reason. That's it. People say, well, Larry, you should know both sides. I don't have to know both sides. I know that you're saying if it's a good idea, I can take people's property. No, the premise is wrong. You don't get to take people's property because it's a good idea. You know what I think is a good idea? If I go to your house and take all your stuff, because if I do that, I'll make money. How are you over there? You vote? You think that's true? I should do that? Yes, they vote yes. Therefore, it's 3-1. I'm gonna go take your stuff. It's not a good idea. I don't care if it's good for me or not. I'm not gonna come take your stuff. That's not what should happen. I don't want the government taking people's property and giving it to another private entity because they think it's a good idea. That's a bad idea. Always, every time. If it makes so much sense and it's so amazing, awesome. Then how about letting the private sector come in and buy it? Buy the land. How about that? I love that. Or if it's a great investment, this is what I've been told. I'm told all the time, Larry, you don't get it. It's a great investment. It's a great investment. If it's a great investment, where are all the bankers with their checkbooks open? They should be open. Checkbooks, here you go. Such a great investment. No, it's a $300 million repayment to cronies. It is money coming from Albany being given to people as political favors so they can build something that will make political people happy, and we're taking people's land and we don't care about it. That's shameful. I'm 100% against eminent domain, against this hospital. Eminent domain should only be used in one situation, when two things are true. One, not using it would hurt someone, and two, there's no other option.
House Speaker Sheldon Silver was ousted over corruption charges,
and many have criticized the state government in New York for being one-party rule. Will you crack down on corruption in Albany?
I will not crack down on corruption at all. No, that's a problem. Cracking down on corruption means you put more people in jail. Putting more people in jail simply validates the system. The problem with me trying to crack down on corruption is that means I'm going to start having more investigations, spending more money, putting more people in jail. What no one's getting is, again, when I just about Trump, I'll say about this. If people, Sheldon went to jail, right?
Yeah.
And I'll ask you, when we went to jail, we went, yay! And whose family came back from North Carolina? And who got a better job? And whose kid, wasn't arrested for selling weed? And who got out of jail and got a second chance? Nothing good happened because of that, except we felt righteous.
No. He was punished for what he did to those women.
So what? Let that happen. That's not what a governor should be concerned about. I'm not going to crack. The Justice Department is doing a fine job. Let them do their job. I don't have to crack down on that. I'm going to change the system. What you're missing here is almost every one of those people who gets indicted, arrested, convicted, their defense is the same thing. Everybody's doing it. That's how it's done. The problem is the system. I'm not going to crack down on any individuals. They're doing it already without me. They don't need me for that. He's just already going to jail. They need me to change the system so less of those corrupt people come in and they have no reason to believe it's okay.
How will you change the system?
I love that. The governor should no longer be the guy who says, I win, therefore I impose my will on others. The governor must be the guy who says, I'm going to protect the rights of the individual from the local bullies who keep popping up. Right now, the bullies are part of the thugocracy. They're all part of the same team. In fact, those bullies are enforcing the king's will. That's why they think they're all safe. They think they're safe. If you notice, none of them say they didn't do it. They don't say, I didn't do it. They say, it's all being done. It's how it works around here. They all believe they're enforcing the king's will. That culture has to change. When that culture changes, the bad guys will stop jumping on board here, the good guys will stop being apathetic, and the neutral guys will stop becoming bad. That is our goal. Change the culture. We have to have the culture of transparency and accountability. Those two things, and we're good. I change the culture and the system. I don't have to crack down. The justice system is doing its job fine.
So let's talk about taxes. New York has some of the highest taxes in the state. What would be your plan as governor to...
Yeah, there's a lot of issues. The problem is taxing is so tough. There's a lot of issues. You have to fix the education system. I can spend an hour just on that so that we can actually get rid of school tax. School tax is a huge burden. I want to get rid of it. I want all the money to come directly from the state, none to come from the federal government, so we lose all of those administrators and all of those strings. It's a detailed plan I want to tell you to you now. I'm happy to tell it to you. In fact, if you want to watch any of my videos, I do explain the entire thing in detail. It's an idea where you shift everything into the local areas and teachers actually teach and administrators get cut tremendously. That will cut out school tax, which would be great. The second thing is I want to get rid of income tax in 4 years. Also a monster. You might have heard me tell that story when I was in there. It's a 3-pronged program to take care of that. Again, these are huge issues that will not be done overnight, but over the course of several years can be done. But the most important thing that's done immediately, that is reducing and or eliminating completely unfunded mandates. When you get rid of unfunded mandates, that means now each county can start its budget every year at 0, which means it doesn't have to always overtax to fill all those burdens. Right now, the biggest reason there's many reasons, but the biggest reason why we're overtaxed is because of unfunded mandates. Counties simply don't have the money. Their mandates are 89, 80%, 50%, 80%, 90% of their budget. They find more ways to make money. School tax, property tax, using law enforcement as a profit center. That ticket that was $100 is now $200. $200 surcharge. We change those 3 things: education, we get rid of income tax, we deal with unfunded mandates, massive tax relief.
Mm-hmm. And so talk about prison reform. We talked about prison reform earlier. There was a corrections officer in here who was talking about what's been going on in prisons. Talk about your plans for prison reform.
Yeah, absolutely. Prison reform. Look, the prisons are in a really bad spot, and it's because of 2 sides of thinking. One side says every corrections officer is a monster and every single criminal is a victim. And the other one says every corrections officer is perfect and a saint and every every inmate is evil and should be killed. Both are wrong. Completely wrong. Here's what I know, and I say it all the time. You heard me say it if you were here. I literally said this. There are 3 types of people I know who are in prison. Those who are in prison and really should be there and probably should never get out. Those who are in prison who should pay their debt to society and then get a second chance. And those who shouldn't be in prison. The problem is I don't know which ones are which. Right now, our current system is we ignore COs. We don't even give them a contract. When they ask us for help, we ignore them. When they show us how to fix things, we ignore them, and we punish them whenever we can. Instead, they should be part of the solution. The COs knows which one's which. They know which guys are which. They work with them every day. They know the guys who are really bad guys, and they know the guys who just messed up and should get a second chance. They know the guys who probably shouldn't be in there in the first place. They know. So when we create new programs, we shouldn't be ignoring COs. They should be initiating the programs. They should be showing us how they work. They should be actively part of the programs and picking and choosing the people who go into those programs to make sure that we have the best chance of making it to where the bad guys stay in and the people that have a second chance get a second chance. That's prison reform. It's adding the COs as part of the solution.
Mm-hmm. So talk about your three-pronged income tax plan. Just, talk about how you want to get rid of income tax.
I'll bring it up if you want to. Sure.
Yeah.
It's a little detailed, but I'll try to be as fast as I can.
You don't have to. We got time.
First thing, it's raising money through ways other than taxation. I'll give you one example. One example is leasing naming rights of bridges for yearly or even more multiple year fees. So for example, we have the Tappan Zee Bridge right now is the Mario Cuomo Bridge. We turn that into the Verizon Bridge, the Sprint Bridge, the Kellogg's Bridge, the Pepsi Bridge, the Apple Bridge, whatever, whoever wants to pay for it. These are companies that literally drop billions of dollars every year in advertising and marketing. They spend $20 million for a stadium. They'll pay $100 million to lease the naming rights. And note what I said, lease the naming rights. We still own the asset. I'm a businessman, you don't give the asset up, we own the asset. We simply lease the naming rights out. Now that becomes Staples Bridge as an example, right? 10-year deal, they pay $100 million a year. Would they pay $100 million a year? Of course they would. As I said, they pay $20 million for a stadium that's used on the weekends. This now is $100 million, and it is mentioned hundreds of times every day in the radio station in 16 million person metro area every day, and over 100,000 of cars go by this bridge every single day. Of course they pay. How do I know it's viable? I've already had bankers talk to me about how we lease this thing. They're already talking to me about it. So it's viable. But the second part to that is now they are responsible for maintenance. We still inspect as we would inspect any bridge, but now they have to actually repair the bridge. What does that mean? The bridge got repaired. And we spend less money. They pay for it, we don't. Budget goes down, corruption goes down. Less corruption, why? Because no more money is coming out of Albany to go to my crony who happens to be a construction guy. Instead, Staples does it however they do it. I don't care, they can fix it any way they want. But what if Staples won't fix the bridge? Awesome, we give the bridge a B rating, they don't fix it, they have 30 days, whatever, however it works. Now it's a C rating, they won't fix it. They lose the contract. Awesome, you lost the contract, you don't get repaid for the year you paid, thank you for the money, and now someone else gets it. Done. Next person comes by. Done. They don't want to do it? Done. Next person comes by. That's how you work it. Very simple. We get a safer bridge, we get more money for the bridge, we've lowered our payments, we've increased money, and here's the best part, no tolls. Tolls go away. If you're a trucker, I used to be a trucker years ago, you pay $100 across one of those bridges because you pay by the axle. $100. Gone. All the money's away. If you're an owner-operator, you just got a raise. If you're a truck driver, you can get a raise from your boss or they can hire more truckers. Good either way, nothing but win. Win-win. That raises tons of money, lowers our payments, and gives us better service. Home run idea. There's lots like that. I don't want to go through all of those. I even cover the Erie Canal. You can deal with locks in the Erie Canal, but you raise money. To be forward, that's not enough. The income tax is somewhere between $40 and $50 billion per year. So doing that probably won't raise enough to cover that nut. But it's a big chunk of it will be covered with that. Next step, we have to somehow negotiate our pension bomb out of our budget. Right now we have a pension bomb. If you're a state employee, the odds are very high, probably 99.9%, your pension is going to be in that pension bomb. Now, what does that mean? Right now the pension bomb is about 15% of the budget. That's huge. We have a $170 billion budget. Just a couple years ago it was 12%. So it's about 3% in 2 years. That's a bad thing. Not just that, the budget has increased just last year $10 billion. Bigger, bigger, bigger. It's unsustainable. Eventually that bomb gets too big. Some people say about 10 years. 10 years from now it's so big, New York can't pay for it anymore. Just can't. We're unsustainable, can't pay for it. What happens? Goes away. Now, some of these upstate pensions are relatively well funded, about 80% or so. The city ones are a disaster. 20%, 30% funded. That means it's only a couple years that'll go before there's no pension. Once we stop paying, there's only a couple years for the fund is gone, right? What happens when that happens? We're in trouble. This state becomes Somalia overnight. I don't want that. Those pensions have to stay, and they should be in this state being paid into this state. That pension money should be going to pensioners here. They should be wanting to stay here. They should be buying stuff in local business with that money. If they're not, this state becomes Somalia overnight. And I'm not even joking. We will have to basically default. Well, Larry, I heard it before. You can't do that because the Constitution says you have to pay. That's true. But if there's no money, you don't get paid. Doesn't matter what the Constitution says. You think I'm lying? Ask Detroit. Ask Puerto Rico. Ask Venezuela. They all have the same rules we have. They all went under. We'll go under too. That's a disaster. Most governors won't tell you about that. They don't care because it's 10 years from now at least, maybe 15. I care now. We negotiate now. We got a shot at saving it. We can't negotiate for 10 years. The ball game's over. Now what happens if you lose your pension? Well, you go for pension insurance. Pension insurance means maybe you get 30 cents on the dollar. Did I make that up? Of course not. Ask the Teamsters in New York City. They had that problem when their pension went under. They went for pension insurance, 30 cents on the dollar. That will devastate this state. I will negotiate openly, transparently, with the literally dozens of unions I've negotiate with to make this work, to where either it is a very small payment or a very small percentage that is sustainable in perpetuity. Now that isn't enough. That's a lot, but that's not enough. On top of that, we have to fix Medicaid, Medicare, and that's also a bear. But one of the things I mentioned earlier today is dealing with the Medicaid issue. A very simple way of doing Medicaid is changing the co-pays from $1 and $3 to $12 and $36. You do that, more money comes in, better service, less payments from the state government. All that would be better if we make just that simple change. But there are several of them that we could do. We add all of those together, boom. We don't need it. We no longer need the state income tax.
The last thing I want to say is, what issue do you want to talk about? Just leave the listeners with, as they go to the polls in 2018.
This is for New Yorkers?
For New Yorkers, yes.
For New Yorkers, listen to this. It's important. The last 16 years, we have not had any change. And here's the reason why. In every single statewide election, whether it's New York senator, with senators going to D.C., governor, controller, attorney general, doesn't matter. Everything, the same thing happens. Blue comes in first, red comes in second, no change. If you keep voting red or blue this gubernatorial election, blue will come in first, red will come in second, no change. If you're happy with what Cuomo's doing, you're awesome. Do that. Life is good. If you're not, you have to vote gold. If you vote gold in 2016 for the gubernatorial election, there will be impact. I will either win, in which case it will change what it means to be a New Yorker. You will see all of a sudden New York be a different state. It will not just change New York, it will change the entire nation. This will be the most impactful election this entire year. It will show the entire country third parties can win. The duopoly is broken. We have to change. Democrats will have to be better Democrats. Republicans will have to be better Republicans. And here's the best part, gerrymandering goes away by default because now third parties can run in every gerrymandered district, which means gerrymandering is now broken by default. It will change the entire nation if I win. Well, if I don't win, I'm fooling myself I can't win. Okay, great. Come in second. I come in second. It will scare the Democrats like there's no tomorrow. They will actually have to stop running roughshod over this state. Like, our lapdogs are gone. Now what do we do? The Republican Party, the top of it, the thugocracy that's the top of the establishment is also broken. Now real Republicans can step in. You have better Republican Party. Change, impact, no matter what. I come in tight third. Scares them all. They can't believe it that I got so much. Every single reporter puts a microphone in my face. All my ideas keep being talked about for the next 4 years. There still will be impact no matter what, win, lose, draw. You vote red or blue, you will get the same. You'll feel righteous as you're packing your U-Haul and going to North Carolina, or you can vote gold and have real impact. LarrySharpe.com, that's Sharpe with an E, and the E stands for electable.
Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. This is great.
Alrighty.
Thanks for listening to the Elected Podcast. As always, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share to be notified when more videos like these drop. However, we are just getting into the school season now, and so I might be posting videos less often, but we are going to be starting Season 3 in October with brand new episodes of the Elected the Political series, as well as the podcast, which will be still going every 10 days, but there may not be as many of the extra videos that you saw, like with our Fan Appreciation Week. there in August, and so just be prepared. We might be posting a little bit less videos as we get into the school year, but it's all worth it. We're going to be putting out some really great stuff, some brand new episodes that are in the works right now, so I'm very excited to share those with you guys. But again, thanks so much. Be sure to support us on Patreon. We really do need it. We're working on building a new set right now, but of course that stuff isn't cheap. So be sure to support us on Patreon. And as always, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell icon so you can get notifications every time we put up a brand new video. Our next podcast is going to be on September 17th, 2018, where we're going to have yet another exciting guest. It's been really great, all the amazing guests we've had on this show so far. And we're going to have many, many more guests on the show. So thank you very much for listening. I will see you all in a few days. I'm your host, Luke Radel. Thanks for listening to the Elected Podcast.